Hi, everybody. Welcome to my channel. If you like my channel, please like and subscribe. There's a notifications bell down at the corner that will let you know as when I'm going to go live. This is Rowan, if you didn't know, and she is my special dog. She's amazing. Best friend, definitely. So today I want to talk about really how narratives are really important. And this came to be because um, you know, constantly within the scope of having to research different things related to displacement and how we're going to solve it. Um, there is a lot of times on the opinion side, different narratives. In other words, different ways of taking those facts, those information, and it's giving a perspective. And really, what we want to do in these situations is really look at both sides of the perspective and, find out where A, if it's understood, and B, where it might be misunderstood so that there's some clarification. Hi, Akshay. Um, so I think that that's really important. And it came about because I've seen a lot of times, like there was a job program that they were talking about, and they were like, they're going to hire homeless to clean up the streets, which honestly, I'm good. Thank you. Hi, Megan. And which sounds on the first scope of it, hiring people to do things that I don't know, to perform sanitation work. Number one, my issue is no one should be discriminating on somebody based on their housing status. So my question to them is, why weren't you hiring people who were unhoused in the first place? So, and then they said it was they had given 125,000 and they were going to pay the workers 20. And I was like, okay, so the issue that I have then is here you have 125,000 does not, it sounds like a lot, but it's really not enough to pay some full-time employees. So we know that those jobs are going to be part-time. They're not going to pay enough for the person to actually rent a place or anything else. And as soon as they get that job, they're going to lose all benefits such as food stamps or any kind of assistance they would have had before. So I think that on the surface of some of these issues, we have some well meaning people on both sides, some amazing minds and compassionate voices and kind people. I just think that it gets a little twisted sometimes as to these issues are much deeper than surface issues. Hi, Kate. Oh, hi, Karen. Hi, evil Dr. Mainstream. Um, uh, do I support Andrew Yang? I I do. I do. I think that, but like anything, I think that there's a lot of issues that people are looking at that are just surface. And I think that there's many more facets to these things, such as understanding that if you tell somebody, well, we're going to take somebody and we're going to pay them $20 an hour in a city that requires at least that full time to be able to maintain a place to live, and we're going to hire them part time, which if you hire them part time, especially in a sanitation rotation where it's day, what are they going to do at the nighttime? And are you providing housing assistance or anything like that? And I had some really deep um, questions. And I think that's with a lot of things. And one thing that I'm running into a lot, Yang Gang, one thing that I'm running into a lot is seeing, there's a lot of wonderful things going on, but there's a lot of places where misunderstanding or the narrative, it kind of screws things up. And in one of those, for example, one of those issues where, we know that transitional housing is great, but in the end, everything comes down to housing first. That is the solution. End of story. Um, I guess it's going to take a while to get there, but we know for a fact, and when I say we, it's anybody who is in any capacity a researcher. Um, Globally, it has been proven that if you want to end homelessness, provide homes. And provide homes as a human right and not based on meritocracy. And that's another thing I'm going to talk about as well. Lady Lilac, thank you very much. I'm actually feeling like I don't look that good today. I think it's just because it was a really rough day. Um, but that's another thing around the jobs thing. I hear this a lot. And one thing that I have to point out to people is disproportionately, people who are unhoused are also disabled. They may not look like it. They may, if you are not a medical professional, please stop diagnosing people as to whether they're working or not. And oh, thank you, Megan. I appreciate that. Hi, Carol. So I think that, one thing that stuck in my mind, because somebody said, these jobs give them dignity. And I was like, why can't we find dignity outside of that? And I remember when I was homeless, and I was bawling. I was crying to my social worker, and I'm like, why? I'm smart. Why can't, I should be able to get out of this. I should be able to get a job and a phone. Like, this should be easy to me. Why isn't it? I hear these stories all the time of these people coming out of it and doing this. And she's like, you know what? Right now, no matter what anybody says on the street, no matter anybody looks at you, anything, your job is to get better. Your job is to make your medical appointments, because you're not going anywhere unless you're healthy. And she had to repeat that time after time after time again to give me a sense of self-worth. And so now, I'm not going to lie, I kind of bristle when the conversation comes down to, you know, the unhoused, and it's like, now it's happening to working Americans. Well, it's always happened to working Americans. You know, I don't understand where, when we throw that narrative out, we're throwing out the narrative that it's due to laziness, and it's really not. There are just too many studies and too many factors that say that that's not what it is. Karen, this could have been fixed. Sorry, just as it started, but they didn't think it would go this far. It's gonna be a long time fix for everyone, and they didn't want to do that. Hi, Angelica, Karen. They thought it would blow over. Nikki G, your beautiful inside out and truths. Oh, thank you guys so much. You guys are so positive, and I absolutely love it. And I have to say, today was like the day. And that's actually probably why I bristled at that whole job thing, was because, like, I go to being my company is going into hopefully a nonprofit status. And thank you, Megan. Oh, um, so my company is going into a nonprofit status, and like my company, me and Rowan, subsist off of donations. And I have a lot of meetings sometimes in research that I'm doing, and going in and underlying doing all this framework, and the people that I know this. So I go to, and usually when I go to lunch or I have a meeting, the person, whoever's setting up the meeting, is the one that pays. And so I didn't even think about it and went to the meeting, and turns out there was a miscommunication. My company is always going to include Rowan, because, like, if I could literally put her on as a board member, I would do it. But I think that just makes, yeah, I don't know if that would be. But there was, like, a law firm that hired a cat. So I don't see why being, considering that it's for the well-being of all beings, couldn't hire a beautiful lab like her. She's definitely got skills, amazing skill sets. Okay, I got to go back to where I was. So anyway, I go down there, and I'm waiting, and I find out it's going to be a teleconference thing. And I was like, oh no, because I just ordered coffee. So this is like going to be $4 and I did not bring anything. And which is silly. You should always. So I immediately am like, oh no. And got a hold of Gypsy. And that's like, you know, Gypsy, she doesn't have a job, but she works. And I know so many people that work and they work on getting better. They work at surviving or they work at jobs where they're exploited and or they work outside of the norms of employment. Artists and all this wonderful people, but I have a real problem with this narrative of dignity comes through your employment. Dignity comes from understanding where your shame lies, overcoming challenges, surviving in the against the greatest odds. That's dignity, you know? And I just I don't want people to think that number 1, if if somebody is able to work and unhoused, most definitely in most times they are working. So I think some of these programs don't take into account number 1, everyone should hire and not discriminate based on someone's housing status. And if you as an employer find yourself doing that, then maybe question, the wages that you're giving your employees, are their basic needs being met? Because I think that that's where we have to get to also as a society is it's not about having a job, it's about being able to have a life. Because isn't that supposed to be what it's all about? Is having a life that's fulfilled? And so hold on, I'm gonna address some comments because I kind of looked at Walmart comes to mind. Yeah, right. Megan Rowan is the chief ever loving officer. I love that. I love that. I am gonna steal that. She is the chief ever loving officer for sure. She is amazing. So I just, it just came to mind about narratives and what we say about people. And I think that anytime we have the sanitation department of the city say, well, now we're going to hire an unhoused individual. Well, why weren't you beforehand? Like, why does it now have to be money funneled in from the city for you to hire community people who have the experience and an ability to do so? It just because you funnel city money into something doesn't magically make people have the ability to work. If they have the ability and desire to work, they're going to get a job and work. And there are jobs available. It really struck me as odd. And I hear it all the time about, and I think we have to be very careful when we put anything. Food, water, and shelter are basic survival necessities. End of story. And it isn't just about, well, right now it is about getting everybody that's unhoused into housing. Like that's huge. And that's where the system changes comes in and that's where strengthening that framework. And that's also, that takes time. It's taken time. And there are things being done. But it also takes a lot of guidance and recommendations from people who are actually out there and doing the work. So that's what I'm trying to do today. We did, however, I had an amazing meeting. Let's see, Kate, Laura had to cancel, so I hauled my butt to Soto, and I'm still okay. I am so glad. Yeah, she had said I actually forgot to message you because she told me she had to cancel, and she didn't know if you got her message. And medical care. Did you see Bernie's tweet asking his followers if they postpone medical care because of financial reasons. So his responses were insane. Absolutely. And that's, but see, and that's something too, is housing is health. All of these things are healthcare. Like in the end, what is the health of the individual? And I think that is another thing that what you said is perfect. It's about framing, because I think that in the scope of things, I automatically am like, well, everything's healthcare because it's the health of the individual. But I think that you're right, that we need to talk about that as a and bring that in as a separate entity, because n- not everybody makes the connection. And so it is it's insane to me how somehow your wealth determines your health. And because wealth is determined by many, many different factors that are completely outside of your control. Um, if the whole situation that was, if you work really hard, you'd be wealthy, we would have a lot of people who are wealthy who are not. So the thing is there are a lot of factors that come into it other than hard work. And when we have a system that will base your health off of that, it becomes really a system that's upholding and putting value. It's a caste system, and we shouldn't be okay with that. And I think that any progression towards understanding human rights as a whole and the Declaration of Human Rights, and really what humanitarian law is about, we have the right to have our government uplift us. And we have the right to have our government not place us in any more danger. And a lot of these policies are very aggressive and are exploiting people who are already in very dire circumstances. Let's see. Man, so many people have family members who died because they couldn't afford treatment. Absolutely. Absolutely. That is absolutely the truth. Um, and it seems like the majority of Americans are concurrently postponing something because of money, myself included. Yes. Most people I know, even people, they just they can't afford it. It is so much to, I've heard people, well, you must be nice to be on Medicaid. That is the base level of care. It isn't lucky. It is a right. And I think that what we should realize, instead of trying to undercut the people who are legitimately at risk of dying sooner, is make sure that everyone has access. Everyone has a right to healthcare. That I don't understand why in 2019 anyone is rationing insulin. This is ridiculous. There is it is it blows my mind. It blows my mind that if I was to have a prescription for Narcan, it might cost over $100. That blows my mind. This is ridiculous. The EpiPen prices. Um, it's Nicholas. Medical care, education, housing are basic human rights. Yes. When will this country learn? My dad died of cancer, and that could have been avoided. Yeah, it's there. Yes, exactly. There are, you know, I I was at a meeting the other day, okay, and it went extremely well. And let me tell you, on the harm reduction front, we're coming. It's there's some wonderful things coming. So anyhow, but I was at this meeting, and we were talking about, just really making sure that everything that is done in a bipartisan way and with communication and understanding. with everybody, just trying to really to make sure that when we're talking to our legislators that we are addressing facts and really putting things into perspective. And part of that is, also having some storytelling elements, people that have gone through this. And so we were discussing that, and I said, I am willing to debate on just about anything except human rights. Human rights are human rights, and I believe in any being or species should really have the right to sustain itself on this planet. If you're here, there's room for you. It has only, it's tragic to see that to survive and thrive on this planet requires or has a monetary value. Um, I have seen and heard of people doing ridiculously dangerous jobs for risking loss of life and limb for paper to make sure that basic needs were being met. And the problem with that is that that trauma goes into the genetic code. So not only are they going to have problems, but their children are going to have problems, and their children's children are going to have problems because of that. I was looking at just the contamination from people, being in construction, what that can do as far as cancers and things like that. How can we as a society put people in situations that negatively affect their health and then not be responsible for that as a whole? I myself do not understand this. I believe that we all contribute to this world. This world is interconnected, and we are responsible for it. And we are responsible for each other in that manner. Let's see. After my uncle died, I learned there was a cancer treatment that could have saved him, but it was about $500,000. Yeah, even it wasn't cancer; it was my brain injury treatment. But I asked my neurologist about hyperbaric oxygen treatment, and she's like, "No." And I was like, "What? What about, like, can we get a SPECT scan, figure out exactly?" And she's like, "No." And those aren't, no. And I was like, "I know that those are treatments." She's like, "Not with your insurance." And I was like, "Okay, so all right." So I appreciated the honesty I really appreciated the honesty because I didn't want to feel like I was crazy, like those treatments didn't exist because I knew they did. But I wanted the honest truth. And the honest truth was, I'm sorry, honey, you're poor. We're going to work with what we have. And they did amazing. And I'm so grateful to the people who helped me in that rehabilitation process. Um, so anyhow, that's just pretty much what I want to talk about is just keeping, really watching our narrative and making sure that, you know, it's so easy to do a snap judgment, but I think at this time we just really need to be careful about what we're pushing. um it can't be good enough. That is my whole thing. It can't be good enough. It has to be good. It has to be right. No more of this good enough. Why are we throwing money into good enough when we could throw the money into the right thing to do? That I want to change. So anyhow, I appreciate you all. Are there any comments or anything anybody wants to talk about? Okay, I hope you all are having a wonderful holiday season. Um, I'll be honest, there were like so many subjects going through my head about what I could talk about, and I kind of landed on the narrative, but I really do have I have a lot of things that I'm thinking about right now, and um, I'm really, really excited at the progress that we're making, and I am thrilled for 2020 and the changes and that are coming and the challenges that are being met. And so that's awesome. I will ask if you possibly can to please support being. We need your support. I'm going to, and when I say we, it's because I will be having a board. We are going to go nonprofit. Um, it'll just help fund things so much better. So it helps support me, Rowan, and getting things up off the ground. There's a PayPal link in the descriptions. Nicholas, how is my overall health now? Better than it was, honestly. I had so many problems for a long time. And I think that, okay, when, for example, and I know that there's just not a certain, I wish there was just like a simple answer, but there's really not. Um, like when I first had when I first found out I had endometriosis, I was in so much pain. I couldn't even tolerate it. I was out of my mind in pain. And after a while, there was a procedure, whatever, and that helped. But then, I got to get used to it. And the same thing with fibromyalgia, the same thing with AS, the same thing with being bipolar. Um, I think that there is a learning process. And I think that with anything, that takes understanding the problem first, understanding the components of the problem, and then finding ways to work around that. And so I think that I have been doing really well at really just working around things, and and making differences in ways that I really only dreamed about. And see, there's that there's that emotional thing that comes up because I get emotional really easily. Um, but I have a life that I'm proud to live. And I think that that makes me really happy. And I think that my health is what it will be. But in the end, I'm going to keep working around every challenge, every step of the way. It doesn't matter what happens. I'm going to work around it and I'm going to figure it out. And I'm going to feel better somehow. So I think that's where that is. That's all we can do is just accept the challenges, ride the roller coaster, do what we can do. Hi, Chiara Eliza. I might have butchered that. I'm so sorry. Thank you for the hearts. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. And as always, as long as it's respectful, of course, because otherwise, block game is strong. Put your comments, ask your questions in the comment section. It's really great because it gives me ideas for further vlogs as well. Um, and I hope that I'm just sending out so much love and hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful night and great holiday season. I will see you in probably a couple of days. I would say like tomorrow, but you and I both know that it's usually like a day or two after that. Okay. Bye, everyone.